Yo, what's up guys, I'm hitting up with a new Etheria restart video. Today with something more of a educational video, I would say. What is better, Fury or Harvest for DPS units? Zeppelin was actually making a video talking about all these DPS shells and they are all kind of bad in this game, and that our attack scaling DPS units do need some support, and that XD should look into our DPS shells in the game right now to potentially buff them up, right, and make attack scaling DPS units more viable in this game, because it is a bruiser loser meta at the end of the day, and the DPS shells do feel quite lackluster when it comes to helping the DPS units doing their job, and that is being glass cannons that deal quite some damage. Now when it comes to that, I actually never did a test about what is truly better. Is it Fury, is it Harvest as like a DPS 8-piece set effect? Because when we look at the Fury effect, it's 12% damage increase, right, when this effect is active, while Harvest on the other hand gives you a 4% defense ignore, as long as, if you read it here, 30% defense ignore as long as the opponent is above 50% HP. Now how do we do the testing? I do it as I do it usually. I use a single target hitter. For this purpose I build up, now as you saw before, the Hoyen, and what I'm using here is a Keen Eye Fury Swift Raid set, because that is the matrix of this revelation cell, and I have the exact same shell again, but instead of Fury I have it with Harvest. Now we will actually do two tests. We will look at both of these. So one is with the Fury, one is with the Harvest, compared to a PvE opponent, and then we will jump into RTA, which I will do with one of my guildmates, to test the damage output against blood buff. Is it that big of a deal? Is it a big difference? Is it not a difference at all? We will see. So there we go, Hoyen, and the Lily is just there to boost the Hoyen up. That's actually all there is to it. And if we look at the stats, plus 1100 attack, plus 189% crit damage, obviously not 100% crit rate, but you know what, we will take the gamble and hope the 87% is good enough. And let's just see the damage output we are dealing here. Boom, hitting the blue one for 37k. This is the damage we are dealing. Let's watch it one more time to see how the damage looks like. So we do the buff on the Hoyen here, S3, and now we do the S3 on this boss, on this minion, the blue minion, right? See the damage again, boom, 37k. One more time. Now this is the damage we did with the Fury. Now let me switch the set effect to Harvest and let's see a comparison. I will cut right to that part. Now this is the Harvest build. The only thing which is slightly different is we lost 3% crit damage. Outside of that, it's basically the same thing. Let's see if the damage looks different and just by how much it is different. So we had how much, 78k before? Was it at 78k, chat? I might have to look at the footage again. But now let's put it on ×1 and hit the blue guy here, right? Want to see how much damage we are dealing here. Boom, 38k. Okay, it was 37, not 73. So we dealt now the first time roughly 1k more damage. Not that noticeable, but probably also because the shell itself is level 1. Keep that in mind. If that would have been maxed out shells, we would have a bigger difference in the damage output looking at these two different set effects. Let's try one more time. Let's see the damage output, 36k, so it was lower. Let's try one more. So we have a reference value right here. One more time, boom, 37.6k. So kind of similar, but also not that similar. The damage was still slightly higher, but I noticed, because I also tested it with my Gatsby, but also he had Tiger Yin, and the Tiger Yin and Count are two separate things overall. But if we look at damage output, it is kind of similar, but the ceiling on the Harvest was higher than it was on the Fury. So keep that in mind, that it was slightly higher, and also do keep in mind, if we're looking at the stats right here, right, otherwise I would have to build all these two shells up so we have a higher attack value, and then we could do like a true test in terms of DPS output, right? Because then we would have a bigger damage number, bigger fluctuation, bigger gap between those two. First impression I got from this is that the harvest effect does deal slightly more damage. Okay, slightly more damage with the harvest effect over the fury effect, because you do get the 30% defense ignore ability. Was it that crazy? No, but it was slightly higher. Now let's do a test in PvP. Okay, for the PvP test, I switched gear. I made it a little bit more realistic. So she has now plus 1800 attack, almost close to plus 200% crit damage, with a built-up count with Keen Eye and Fury Edge. The Fury Edge is not equipped because we need to equip 3 pieces of Fury and 3 pieces of Harvest. So let's lock in the Hoyen and the Tsukiyomi. This is all we want to do. And my guildmate here, Tana, helps us out for this testing purposes. We're not gonna throw in Tiamat in here. We wanna just test it on the Linglao because she's a blue unit right now. We use Hoyen and her crit rate isn't the greatest, right? So that's why we just throw in stuff here. And we want to just see the first damage test with a Fury equipped. What is the damage result? And then with the next try, we want to throw in Harvest and then see the comparison in terms of damage output, right? So I'm also going to ban the Fushi because I don't know if she fakes out the damage testing for this particular test. So we would just want to see the raw DPS without any interference, right? I hope the Hoyen crits, otherwise we have to repeat this entire process. Let's boost up the Hoyen here because attack up is something clear. We get the count, so we have a good DPS showcase here right now, right? And this is also a blood buff Linglao, so that we also have a test in terms of how much damage are we dealing against blood buff, right? In terms of Harvest versus Fury. Now let's use the S3 on the Linglao, see what type of damage we are dealing here. 25,900 damage, so close to 26k. This is the damage we got. Nice. Now I will re-gear the Hoyen and see the damage in comparison with her being on Harvest. Now we're doing the second test here, so let's check the stats again of the Hoyen here. So roughly the same attack, almost slightly higher crit damage. I think it was like 5% more crit damage now. But as you can see, we have now fully equipped Harvest. So Harvest is now under fact with the 30% defense ignore. And we had slightly under 28 or no, slightly under 27k damage. I think this is now the realistic test. Before you saw it like that small little PvE test. But actually now comparing the damage output with these two things, right? Let's just see how this truly turns out. I'm actually curious, is the damage now, so we had the Fury, right? The Fury was around 26, no, it was 26k, it was 25k, 993. Let's see if Harvest can actually deal more damage, and if it does, how much more damage does it actually do, right? Let's see how much damage we are dealing to the Linglao now that we have Harvest equipped. 29,500. That was a lot more damage. You see that? That Linglao was almost dead. The stats were quite similar. Now we had the PvE test before with just level 1 shell. Now we have the count basically with the Harvest. If we just compare these damage numbers, Harvest did a lot better, right? Now in this situation, Linglao being here at like, how much HP does she has left now? The Linglao has 14% HP left, right? Now the Fury at this point in time is better, right? Because now the defense ignore of the Harvest is not active at that stage. But you know what? The initial hit was very, very strong and with more damage output that could have been potentially a one-shot. Now this seals the deal. What is better, Harvest or Fury? Now if you're looking for a true one-shot potential, Harvest is definitely better than Fury in that sense. That means also that Harvest is a lot better for PvE side of the game when we're trying to achieve our Aurora one-shots. When I showcase my Tiger Yin with the Keen Eye Harvest version, which I have, right? Very, very solid combination because that allows you to one-shot certain dungeons. Now this is obviously the best bet you can do. Now if you don't go with that route and you have to deal with a lot of situations where enemies are below 50% HP, now this is where Fury becomes a little bit more interesting to use, because then Fury is a little bit more versatile, because if the enemy is below 50% HP, this effect is still active and you can deal extra damage while the Harvest is already deactivated. But the Harvest is really there as long as they're above 50% health. Now this helps you out to shred your opponents, and I feel like this set should be slightly even buffed or more utilized. So for example, on our count shots we do not have Harvest, we only have Furious, but we do not have Harvest as an option. I don't think on a unit like a MaTeIRiA it's that good, because MaTeIRiA already has a 70% defense ignore, so the Harvest is only like a diminishing return, but compared to other units it would be great. And it would be also great if they add that to more DPS shells, right? And I think our DPS units do need a little bit help. But overall, so what it was the summary right here. Harvest is the better DPS support type effect because it does add up in more damage. The problem is right now with the shots we have in the game right now, DPS shots, it's quite lacking in terms of where you can actually truly use it. But you know what you can do is, for Tiger Yin, if you want to use Tiger Yin does have the Harvest shell, right? If you look at Tiger Yin, for example, if you have a combination, for example, if you want to play Blood Buff or like your Lilium or something like that, so something like this here, Blood Buff Harvest is now a better combination over a Blood Buff Fury combination if you plan to use it on, for example, a Lilium, right? Because that nets you a higher chance in actually one-shotting your opponent. And yeah, that sums up the entire video, what I wanted to showcase you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. This was something I wanted to share with you guys, also just giving more insight to the game. I also hope this was helpful, and as always guys, if you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below. I really appreciate it, and see you with the next one. Deuces.